Hey, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast, and today we have another community spotlight interview for you, and this time it is with Erika Greco. Now, Erica's been in the group for, 4 years, probably 4 years or so, and it has just been great to see her progress over time as far as the types of photos that she shoots, creates, and then posts about, obviously. Uh, I've said this before, but it's just like to be able to see somebody's progression over time is really something that I think that we miss as photographers. We're so focused on our own journey and taking better photos ourselves that very rarely are we paying enough attention to somebody else that we see them progress as well. But being in the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group, we're faced with this all the time. We see this all the time because it is a helpful community where people are encouraged to share their photos, ask questions, and learn as much as they can about photography. And that Erika took full advantage of that, and that's exactly what she did. So to be able to see her over time grow as a photographer has been fantastic. So today, I really think that you're going to enjoy this interview because, first of all, Erika shares a lot. She just has a really refreshing take on this side hustle mentality of photography. And if you just want to keep it, as an artistic creative release, then just go ahead and do that. But obviously, me saying that doesn't do it justice. I will let her do that. With that, we're just going to get on into this one. I don't think that there's much more that I could say, but I truly did enjoy this interview with Erika, and it was just so much fun to hear her and get insight into who she is and how she shoots. Because after 4 years, you feel like you know somebody to a certain degree, and then one conversation with them and you realize, wow, I knew nothing and everything else makes sense now. So again, this was such a great chat. We're just going to go ahead and get on into this community spotlight interview with Erika Greco right now. I think for these community spotlight interviews, I think it just works best to just kind of start off by just let me know who you are, where you are, and what it is that you do.
Yeah, well, my name is Erika Greco. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. So, luckily, very beautiful spot to be into photography. And what I do full time professionally during the day is I manage the box office and ticket sales for South Carolina's largest professional theater company. But by day or night, not day, night and weekend, I guess say amateur hobbyist photographer. I love to shoot families, couples, models. And then recently, thanks to COVID, I've gotten a lot more outdoor time and gotten kind of into like shooting birds and things like that too. So, yeah, that's kind of how I spend a lot of my time right now.
You know what I think is so cool is that like you've been in the group for so long that I feel like I've really seen quite the progression in what it is
Oh,
that you shoot, and even kind of how you think, sometimes when it comes to gear and the shots that you take and your editing that you do. So I really have a lot of questions for you today, and I'm super excited to chat. But before we get into that, you do theater now, you love photography. Where did it start? How did photography become important to you?
yeah. So I actually went to a magnet high school for the arts. I didn't go to like my local high school. I went to a special school for my specialty that I studied was theater and acting, but they also had a great visual arts program, and it opened up the opportunity to take art classes in different disciplines, and I picked up a photography class and really loved it. And then to prepare for the photography class, I had to get an SLR, film SLR, for us pre-digital kids.
Right.
Um, and yeah, so it was really in high school. I knew that I wanted to go to this great high school for the arts, and I thought I was just going for theater. Little did I know it was going to open me up to this other artistic passion that I was going to hold on to for the rest of my life as well. So definitely started at good old Patapsco High School in Baltimore, Maryland, where I grew up.
What was that? Patapsco?
Patapsco. It's
Oh
the
man,
it's it's the
that is a
name of a
mouthful right there.
it's the name of a river.
Oh, okay, I got it. I got it. So what happens next? Because I think many of us get interested in photography, oftentimes in high school, whether it be the dark room, whatever it is. But how does that grow into? Or I guess let me step back. Let me step back. What sorts of things were you shooting back then? And was that what interested you in photography the most?
So back then, I think it was just I did probably more like street photography in high school. Just walking around Baltimore, taking pictures of just random scenes that looked cool or random people that looked cool. Didn't do a lot of staged photo shoots or anything back then. It was more kind of whatever was found in my environment. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I was shooting back then. And then, sorry, I forget the rest of the question.
How does that grow into the rest of your life? Because after high school, we just kind of
Right.
forget a lot of the things. What was it about photography?
Yeah, so I actually did for a while. My path wanders quite a bit. um, and even though I went to this arts high school, I was the first person in my family to go to college. So there was it. I didn't see theater or photography as a real career field. I didn't really think that that was a way that I could grow up and make a living. So I kind of put both of them away for a while to study the highly practical field of political science.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, spent my 4 years at college studying political science, thought I was going to go to law school, thought I was going to work in politics. Got close to the end of graduation, realized I in no way wanted to go to law school or work in politics, not in a million billion years, not with a 10-foot pole. So I taught, I worked in education, I kind of did all sorts of different things. But meanwhile, still really needing some sort of artistic and creative outlet. So even in college, I still had my little film camera with me sometimes and would take pictures around campus. But I did kind of get away from it for a while because I had this incorrect mindset that I didn't need to, or that I shouldn't be spending my time with theater or with photography if it wasn't going to be a business. If it wasn't going to be a job, then why would I continue doing it? Or why should I continue, honing my skills or like investing in my practice, things like that. So I kind of put it down for a while because I had this mindset that if it wasn't going to be a job or at least a side hustle, then it didn't have value and it wasn't worth I shouldn't be pursuing it anymore. That's not what a grown up does with their time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you weren't going to try to, and it was impractical, you couldn't make a living being an artist, of course.
Of course,
So,
we all know this. Yeah.
right, which is completely incorrect, but I had that mindset. And so I put it away and I didn't do it for a while, even for enjoyment, until later in life when I realized that I was missing that piece, that creative outlet that I really wanted and needed and enjoyed, and had learned that there is value in just that, in something, not necessarily being a business, because I do not do photography as a business. I already monetized one of my artistic passions. I wanted to keep something just for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I still do want to keep something just for myself and just for my enjoyment. And I think that for a lot of years, I didn't realize that I could, that was okay, that wasn't stupid. So yeah, then I eventually found my way actually back to, a career in theater, which was like my first artistic love. But still spend a lot of time on photography as well, even though I don't do it, as a business, or I'm not aiming to make a business out of it, just because it fulfills me.
That seems like something that, now tell me if I'm wrong here, but it seems like you struggled with that quite a bit, because I know that in the group you have had conversations about charging, you've had conversations about the business side of things. And then it seemed like not too long ago, you were just like, wait a second. No, I'm taking a stand. I'm not going to do that. I do really just love photography for what it is, and I guess what it provides for you in the artistic sense. I know that you just kind of explained that there, but can you walk me through that a little bit more? Like, was it because you were feeling like the business side was taking away some of the enjoyment? Because I know that that's something that a lot of listeners also struggle with. So could you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that, like you said, the business side takes away from the enjoyment. I mean, as a business owner, you know that a lot of your time is not spent shooting and doing the things you love. More of your time is spent on the business side of things.
Mhm.
So I don't enjoy that part.
Yeah.
And my job revolves a lot. My day job revolves a lot around customer service, and even my last job did. And so I don't want to go home and do customer service on the weekends. I
Yeah.
just have I have nothing left for that. I have no energy left for that at the end of the week. So yeah, it was really about that. Like, how did I want to spend? I love my full-time job. I'm not going to leave it,
Mhm.
until they kick me out. So how do I want to spend my time outside of that? Is it still, dealing with customers and clients and dealing with the business side of things when I work really hard at that kind of stuff all week? And it just wasn't how I wanted to spend my free time. And I felt like if I tried to push myself to fit my photography journey into this box, that it felt like I felt like I was just supposed to do. Like, if you do photography, you should make it your job, or you should make it at least a side hustle. You should make it
Right.
income generating. And I was just doing that because I felt like I should. I felt like I was supposed to. I felt like that
Mm.
was the normal thing to do. But it wasn't for me. And I realized that why fit my journey into this box that I don't like. So it just doesn't fit.
Wow.
It just doesn't fit for me. And like I said, I work really hard at one of my artistic passions. I've turned that into a job, and that can take some of the like fun and magic out of it sometimes. So I needed something that was just, like I said, just for me. And I finally saw the value in that and realized not everything has to be monetized. Not everything has to be a hustle. Like, art can just be art, and you can just do it for, your artistic expression. It doesn't have to be because you're going to make it a business one day. You can, and if you do, great, fantastic. But that's not for me, at least not right now.
I love that so much. That's absolutely okay. And you're right. I feel like that is also something that gets pushed really hard on people, is that if you're doing this, like, you might as well just turn it into a side hustle. You might as well make that money.
Yeah, I feel like we live in this culture of like hustle, 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 grind, grind, grind. You know, get 100,000 followers, make your first million, retire at whatever age. Like, it's
Right.
just, and unless you hit that standard, or if you're not at least striving for that standard, then you know then your life isn't good enough, or what your activities aren't good enough, or you're not working hard enough, or you're not this or that enough. But at the end of the day, yeah, that's just someone else's path, and that's someone else's box, and you don't have to fit yourself or your journey or your hobbies or your passions into the mold someone else created. I just, yeah, pure rejection of that, like, hustle, 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 grind, grind, grind culture. It's just we gotta have some fun too.
Yeah, we do gotta have. Okay, so then let me play devil's advocate here for you. Can I ask what your other artistic endeavor is that you said that you've monetized?
Oh, well, I work full time in theater.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking, I don't know, pottery or I don't know, something
No.
else that you were doing. And I guess the question that I was going to ask was, why did you choose to keep photography the passion, and then whatever the other thing is as the profit generator? But that makes more sense because you can't really do the all of live performance on your own.
Yeah,
Yes.
so no, we've got a quite large theater company. I do not perform anymore. I sell tickets and do customer service and stuff like that. So,
Gotcha.
um, but I work in a theater. I'm very lucky. I work in a theater that I started as a fan of. So
Oh, that's so cool.
I was going, I've lived in Charleston for like 10 years now. And as soon as I got to town, I found this theater. It's called Charleston Stage, right out of the historic Dock Street Theater, which anybody who has visited Charleston has seen. It's a beautiful historic building. And as soon as I got to town, I started seeing the shows there. I loved it. I love the theater. I love the company. The director that I work for now, he's the direct founder of the company. So he's been there for a billion years. And he writes a lot of the shows too. So the first play I saw in Charleston was an original work by um, our director Julian Wiles, and so he was just this larger than life character to me. And then a job opened up. I saw when I was ready to leave an old job. A job there opened up, and I was like, "This is it." So that's how I chose to like which of my passions to follow a career in and which to do on the side is just that the opportunity presented itself and I jumped on it. And hey, if there was a photography opportunity that just was perfect and presented itself the way this theater opportunity did, then maybe I'd be in photography full time. But
Right.
since I am in theater full time now, it's awesome to get to work with all these creative, amazing people that I admired from afar for so long. But it does sometimes take, if you're working in a field that you love, it sometimes takes it's a job. It becomes
Hmm.
work. It's not just fun and play and passion anymore. It becomes work, and I didn't want to do that to photography too. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, I think it's great because like I can hear it in your voice as you were describing this to me, just how much you do like your job. I think more than the majority of people. So that's always exciting when you get to be able to say something like that, or just in the way that you say it. I think that that is going to help you uh, long term. But back to photography. Now that I think about kind of your earliest days back in high school, shooting there, I want to know because you said that you were shooting film at the time. The camera that you had, was that full manual or were you shooting an auto, or what was that learning curve like for you?
Um, yeah, so we were shooting on manual. I'm pretty sure it's been it's been a while now. It's been a minute. We
Right.
talked about what year we were born and what year we
Yeah.
graduated. Yeah, so we were shooting in manual. We learned about the exposure triangle and all that stuff. And I loved that. Loved the dark room. Loved the dark room. Loved
Mhm.
black and white. Like swore I would never go digital. Never go digital because that's not real photography. That's
Yeah,
cheating. You never know when a photo has just been edited to look that good. Like, but now I do not own a film camera anymore. So
that is too funny. So then I guess in those early days, was there something that you remember that was particularly challenging for you to grasp or understand or put into practice?
I think that I feel like it was harder once I picked it back up years later in digital than it was the first time around. I think because the first time around I was in a class. It was pre, Instagram and social media age. So just developing a picture that you took yourself and developed yourself and, had any sort of like artistic flair to it was like impressive. The bar wasn't so high as it is now. Now you can, just immerse yourself in crazy talented artists just by scrolling your Instagram feed. There's just so much good work out there that I feel like it really raised everybody's standards. So I didn't feel like I struggled with a lot back in high school, but I think it was because the bar was a little bit lower. It was like, oh man, I took this picture of a flower and I developed it myself, and this is so. I mounted it on some uh, black cardboard, and this is so cool. Where once I picked it back up in the age of digital photography and um, social media and just being exposed to a lot more good photography, that's when the challenges came because my standards had been changed.
Wow. So let me think about that for a second. So the standards had been changed. So photography got harder for you. In terms of, was it a personal thing? Were you just feeling like, oh wait, I'm not as good of a photographer as I think I am, or were you trying something that you were seeing and realizing that it was harder than you expected? How so?
Yeah, so I think that the part of it is insecurity because you play the comparison game, even though you're not supposed to. Don't
Right.
compare your journey or your life to someone else's. Like we still all do it, and I think that there's a place for that. It made me improve. It definitely made me improve. Where if you just don't look at anybody else's work or don't compare yourself ever, do you really know in which direction to go to improve your work?
Hmm.
But there can be joy lost in comparison for sure. So yeah, I think that part of it is just all of a sudden I realized all the problems or all the shortfalls or all the areas I could improve when I started seeing people who were more advanced and more skilled and more experienced than me, and was really exposed to them just on a you know, on a regular basis versus, like I said, in high school, it's just like, wow, I developed a picture. This is awesome.
Yeah. So
But
today, I'm sorry, go on.
and I think part of it was also making the transition to digital, um, and relearning some of the basics after I put the camera down for a little while, and then the transition to digital. And there's just a lot more options. There's a lot more buttons to learn. So there was some personal, kind of personal growth that had to be made as far as, being secure enough to have some confidence in my work. That's confidence is always an issue for me. But then there was technical growth to be made too, to make that transition to digital and just kind of get back in the groove of things.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything from a technical standpoint in particular that you can think of?
Oh gosh, like focus, like having things be in
Yeah.
focus was like an adventure.
Isn't
For
that
a
so
while,
funny?
you take a picture on your little tiny little screen. You're like, yes, I nailed it. And then you get it to a computer and make it bigger, and you're like, oh man, that's
Yeah.
completely out of focus. So yeah, focus, lighting, learning Flash. I never did Flash in high school, and yeah, I think those are probably the biggest things: is consistent focus, consistent lighting, and then with part of consistent lighting being how to use artificial lighting, when that natural light isn't an option, or isn't
Right.
your best option, or isn't the vision you have in your head.
Yeah, right. Yeah, all three of those. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I think when it comes to focus, I don't think that you're alone there. That's definitely something that is very challenging. And then I think the world of mirrorless kind of changed everything again. I feel like everybody
I
really
have
got used to, oh, you haven't made the switch yet.
no,
Oh,
no. My
good.
camera is still big and heavy. I can't do it. Look, I resisted digital for a while. Mirrorless is gonna
Gonna
take
have to
even
wait.
longer. So
Yeah.
no, I feel
Hey,
like
I
I'm
mean,
just
if it works though,
yeah.
if it works, like why change it up? And if you don't rely on these tools for, you know, so one of the reasons why I switched from Canon to Fuji was just simply I felt like it helped me do my job better. And that was it. Right? It was a smaller camera. It kind of helped me blend in a little bit.
Mhm.
I could be a little less conspicuous. And on a dance floor, like that's what you want. You don't want to, at least I didn't want to be the guy with the giant camera and the flash in everybody's face, right?
Mhm.
I don't think that if it was just me personally and my personal photography, I'm not sure that I ever would have changed systems. So I don't blame you there.
Yeah,
I would stick with it until the shutter just falls right off the camera.
basically. And plus, I'm like, I've spent enough money on all this stuff.
Right?
I'm gonna keep it for a while. But I think that relates actually to like some really good advice that helped me, that came from your podcast, and it was about like not gear chasing, like making sure if you're buying something new, that you know exactly why you're buying it and exactly what hole it's going to fill for you, or what gap it's going to fill for you. And to me, like mirrorless at this point, I don't even have a full frame camera. I have a crop sensor camera, and the only reason I would change it would just because, like, I don't know, like an illogical like little itch for some new technology, and that's not a good reason to spend a bunch of money. It doesn't feel a need for me. It doesn't feel a gap, and that was really good advice I got actually from your podcast that really
Good.
helped. So every piece of gear, every lens that I bought, and every piece of gear that I bought, I wanted for months, at least months, and I know exactly why I bought it, and that is because of you.
Yes, I love to hear that. That is so awesome. That is so awesome. Yeah, I mean, that is such a hard thing, and I think about that too in the same sense that a lot of people get told that if you're if you're into photography, turn it into a side hustle. I think that today a lot of people are told once you get into photography, got to go full frame, got to got to get all the big lenses, and I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I went because
Yeah.
that's kind of the path that I took. I went I had the Canon XT and then the Canon 40D, and then I was like, got to go full frame, if you're going to be shooting weddings all the time. So I went to the 5D Mark II, and it was amazing at how fast I realized, wow, my photos didn't change at all. Like
Yeah.
you expect this monumental
Tall. Yeah.
change, total shift in your images, but really you're still the exact same photographer as you were before, and there are some technical differences, obviously, some better low light capabilities.
Mm.
But I think overall, it's not going to transform your photography. And I absolutely love that you are like, no, sticking onto this thing. And if I do upgrade, I got to know why. So then let me ask you, what would it take for you to upgrade to full frame?
The thing that gets me sometimes tempted for full frame is the low light capability. And another thing that I've heard from through some of your feedback in the group and other people's feedback in the Facebook group, which is an amazing community, by the way, um, is like, oh, just up your ISO, up your ISO. But I don't know what it is, whether it's my camera or just my taste. I don't like it, and it drives me crazy. And so the only thing that I think that would make me upgrade to full frame is just the low light capabilities. But for right now, I work around it and maybe learn Flash, which I think is a real asset, which is really fun. So yeah, I think that sometimes limitations are like limitations, and having to work with somewhat limited capabilities actually makes you more creative and makes you learn how to do things yourself instead of just relying on some new piece of gear to fix the problem for you. So sometimes, what is this, like scarcity is the mother of invention or something like that?
Or, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Necessity.
So yeah, yeah,
Necessity?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Something
so
like
like
that.
I don't have this great low light camera, so I had to learn Flash. Well, Flash is actually really fun and really cool and can really like step up your photos and just change the way, you can make, just adds an artistic layer to the things that you're able to produce. So yeah, I think sometimes being limited can actually be kind of a good thing because it pushes you out of the box and makes you be more creative and makes you work on yourself instead of just working on, upgrading your gear.
Right. And it's a whole lot cheaper that way too. So let me ask you, what, like, personally, just for you, what's the highest that you would go as far as ISO when you're shooting with your camera?
Oh gosh, I start to get annoyed above like 400,
400. Hold
600.
on. Oh, can I ask what camera you have?
A Canon 80D.
80D.
Actually,
What?
ADD. I
I
actually
would.
started on you mentioned that you had a 4DD, and I
Yeah.
started my first digital, not film. I don't know what model my film was,
Uh-huh.
but my first digital camera was a 4DD, and then I upgraded to an 80D. And I love that camera.
But
It did help.
800
That
is the
was,
max for you, huh?
I mean, no, I will, but it starts to bother me.
Wow. Well, yeah. You know what? Then I think because the 80D is still a relatively very new camera. I think there's only one model newer than it, which means that essentially going full frame, you're only going to get about a stop more performance out of your ISO. So that means 1600. So then
Yeah,
I guess the question is, would you be willing to spend 2 grand to go up to ISO 1600?
absolutely not. And my bank account thanks you for pointing that out.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that was that was a very rough and dirty, I guess, answer to that question, I guess, that you'd be thinking. But no, I mean, it sounds to me like you got it figured out and that you're happy with it. So I
Yeah,
would
and
just stick with it.
instead I bought some killer lenses that I really had a
Yeah.
good time with. The first one that so right now I have a Tamron G2 24 to 70 and 70 to 200. Um, and then I have a Sigma 150 to 600, which is my newest purchase.
Wow.
And that's for birds, and that has been so cool and so fun. And it's funny how like photography has actually made me get more exercise, because yeah, I'll put on like miles and miles and miles with that lens, and it's like 6 pounds.
Jeez.
So it's not light, so I get a bit of a workout. I have figured out that the hand I support that lens with, like you can visibly see that the muscle on that arm is stronger, even though it's my left hand, even it's my non-dominant hand. So I was like, why is my bicep on my left arm stronger when I'm very much right-handed? And we're like, oh, it's because I hold that big lens, that big heavy lens,
That is so funny.
with
That is
my left
great.
hand. But yeah, it's like it's helped me get outside more. It gets me more exercise. So there's so much value in my photography, even if I, don't try to turn it into a business. And yeah, instead of investing in that full frame camera just because I was supposed to, because it's somebody else's, journey that they made up, somebody else's box that I don't have to, or somebody else's plan I don't have to subscribe to, because I didn't do that. I was able to, yeah, like I said, get some killer lenses instead that I've had a great time with. I mean, I've started to find like where all the bald eagles are locally, and that's been really fun and really cool to see. And gotten, yeah, super into birds. I had a painter, I had an artist, a painting artist, contact me for about a picture I took of a group of roseate spoonbills, which are
Oh, wow.
these crazy looking pink birds that are so cool, asking me if she could paint it. And she said
Wow.
if the painting sells, she'll send me a commission. So yeah, like I wouldn't, and it was because I got out because I had this super cool new lens. I couldn't have done that with just because I upgraded to a full frame camera because somebody else said I should.
Right, right. And because of the crop factor, you'd actually be further away. So the photo wouldn't be as impactful with a full frame camera. So that's even better.
Yeah. I mean, I love all the lenses that I've invested in, but like I said, I made sure I wanted them. They were they were in my Amazon cart for a very long time
Mhm.
before I pulled the trigger, and that was really good advice. And I use and abuse them, take them everywhere, um, and really, yeah, really get a lot of enjoyment out of the things that I have chosen to invest in.
That's good. I love to hear that. One of the things I see often is, in like buy set camera back or photography buy sell trade groups is always like people think that it's this badge of honor when they go to sell a camera and it's like there's only 1,000 shots on it. And it's like, what? Like, how
Yeah,
is that a good thing? That means that you didn't use it at all. Like, we should be praising the people who have 600,000 shots on their cameras. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But that's the
One of
thing.
my gears, it's probably not good, but one of my gears sticks a little bit because it's got sand in it because I've taken it to the beach
On one of your
to
lenses?
on my camera.
Oh, oh.
On my camera. I don't think I've ever taken one of my more expensive lenses to the beach. My camera and a cheap lens will go in the beach. I've done a model shoot out at the beach, and as well as done some astrophotography out there when the Milky Way has been visible. So that's super fun. And yeah, still have there's a little bit of sandiness in one of the gears
Oh
on my
no.
camera, but I wear that like a badge of honor. It means that
Yeah,
I have used it. Oh
you
my gosh,
should.
when I did the beach shoot where I was shooting models, um, I was it was the craziest sight. I had my camera in one hand, but we were in the waves, so I had a flash on a flash stand in the other hand, and I was just trying to balance myself like in a like low squat position because the model was like kneeling on the ground, low squat position, and I'm trying to get her getting hit by a wave, like the wave like crashing over her, but that also means that I'm getting hit by a wave. um and I one time at one point wiped out, got knocked over by one of these waves. Luckily was able to like hold the camera and the flash stand high enough up in the air to save the camera and stuff. But yeah, I mean, which some people, would think is crazy, like, why are you standing in the water with your camera? You could get your gear wet. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with it if not? Like, it's not,
Right.
I didn't buy it to leave it in the bag and sit on a shelf. So I definitely, yeah, my camera's gone to the beach in the water, like in and out of suitcases. I'm a little rough on it probably.
Well, thank goodness for those big lens muscles that helped you, hold everything out of the
Yes,
water for you.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it all works itself
Mm-hmm.
together. That's hilarious. When it comes to photography, I love to know, especially in this day where I feel like Instagram has come out and said that they're no longer photo focused or photo forward, whatever the wording
What?
was there. Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like, I'm always interested to know, like, as a photographer, where do you find your inspiration from?
I mean, I never thought that I would like Instagram. I was very late to the Instagram game, but I do like Instagram these days. As far as seeing, work outside of the people around me, But I would say actually the most inspiration that I have found is from local photographers and local photographers and then like Facebook communities, because like, two examples, two things that I think were a huge motivational point for me and inspiration to me. One was the beginner photography podcast Facebook group, because I can name people that I feel like have been in the group for years, and we have watched their journey and we've watched them grow so much. And it's a
Yes.
little bit of not competition, but it just motivates you to like, oh, they're getting better, like I should get better. Watching them improve makes you want to improve too. It makes you realize you can do it because they started out, a beginner just like you, and you saw their work. You saw when they were a beginner. It's not some profession, or some, crazy advanced artist telling you, oh yeah, sure, I was a beginner at one point. You're like, yeah, sure you were. You're
Right.
like born with a camera in your hand. But these are people that we have seen their work progress, in real time right in front of us. And that has been super cool to see in the community. And then the community is just so supportive. Oh my gosh, there's not a nicer Facebook community or Facebook group out there. So that's been a huge source of inspiration. And then also connecting with local photographers and local models and seeing the work that they're putting out has been another really great source of inspiration too. So I would say I don't have like a favorite photographer that's kind of like out there, some well-known name or some other influencer like you.
Oh, shut up. So weird. Stop.
So some other famous photographer. For me, it's really the people that have grown kind of alongside of me, and the local people that I kind of look up to, and the people on Facebook, like both of those Facebook communities. That we have a local photographer and model Facebook community where people share work, and then the beginner photography podcast Facebook community. I would say that the people in those communities have actually been my biggest inspiration.
I mean, first of all, I don't even know where to begin with that. Like, because that's exactly how I feel about like you. You were in it pretty much from the beginning. You got to see people and their skills develop as a photographer, and that's how I feel about you and so many others as well. I mean, it's been so much fun to see you develop and your progression from, I mean, everything, even that we've talked about today, from portraits of friends, family. You've done some street photography, some astrophotography, night photography. I think you did some selective coloring there in the beginning, like we all do, some slow shutter shots.
I will still, that is a hill I will die on. That selective coloring is still appropriate in some situations.
I agree. I'm right there with you. But it's a very small list of appropriate situations, I believe. But, over all that time, I feel like, especially now, because you've gone on to shooting models and birds as well. So over all of that, I want to know if you could go back in time and tell yourself something earlier, what piece of advice would you give your greener self about the world of photography?
Just dive in. Just don't be so nervous. Don't feel like you have to know it all before you put a toe in. I think that I was hesitant to share work because it wasn't exactly where I wanted to be, or because I saw work that I thought was better than mine, and so I wouldn't share. And what do you have to lose? Dive in, get to know people. Like, there are really cool people in these communities, online and in real life communities. I mean, the community, the photography group around here like meets for lunch once a month. Dive in, get to know people, whether it's in real life or online, and share your work. And just don't be afraid. What do you have to be afraid of? What do you have to lose?
That's perfect. Oh my gosh, that is so good. I feel like you're one of those like super wise photographers like talking to me. I'm like
Oh
on every
gosh.
word. I'm like, this is so great. This is so great. Especially because, it's one of those things where when it comes to photography, it is an art. And as you know, when it comes to art, it's very subjective. But that means that you have to project a lot of yourself onto the art itself for it to have meaning. And I feel like just in this conversation with you, I'm getting like this backstage understanding more of your work and how you put yourself into your work here. And it's almost as if all of your photos that I've seen in the past make more sense now after this conversation with you, which I love and I think really lends itself to you wanting to dive in and make those connections. And probably one of the reasons why, you are, so trusted within the group is because I can tell that you obviously have a passion for this and that you truly do enjoy this. So this has been a ton of fun. I still got a few more questions for you. If you still got
Yeah,
time, you up for it?
yeah, of course.
Awesome. With I kind of want to go back to the Facebook group for a moment
Hmm.
because this is an area where, I love talking to you. I love talking to other members of the group, but there's a few things that I guess being on the outside of it, I'm still always kind of like, I don't understand why it works like this. So for you, you said earlier that you think that it's one of the friendliest places on the internet for new photographers. Why do you think that is? There are so many Facebook groups out there with hundreds of thousands of people. I think we only have 5,000 people in the group. I don't even think it's that, but there are groups with hundreds of thousands of people. Why do you think the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group works as well as it does?
And I'm not just saying this to flatter or anything. It's because of you and the culture that you set, and like you're such a nice person, and you made it clear from the beginning that like no jerks allowed. This is going to be a nice place. This is going to be a safe place. It's going to be a supportive place. And people who were people who are cocky and arrogant, like you're going to get a warning, and then like you're not going to post anymore. And I don't even think it took that many. I haven't even seen the lovely admins give too many warnings to people, because I think it since you started the group, it's been very clear that that was gonna be the culture of the group. So I think that your personality and your intentionality around that really built a great community. I think you've selected great people to be admins. I mean, people who are like just as awesome and supportive and active, and you know thriving and seeing other people thrive. Like you've got a great team of people that are helping you out with that. And it's the culture that you guys set. 100%.
I think I might edit that part of the podcast out. That felt really weird
No,
for me
don't
to
you dare. Don't you dare. It's true. It's true. It's true. And because I know like Kimberly
Mhm.
Irish, right, is one of the admins, and she's just a rock star. Like one, she's
She
the
is.
person that we have seen grow so much since the beginning. So I'll shout her out too. And she does such a great job with, she's always active in the community, and it's always positive, and it's always constructive, and it's always supportive. And so I think that, yeah, just the influence that the group's creator and then the group's leadership has just really keeps it in a really good direction, and it does work really well.
Okay, maybe I'll keep that in there because
You have to, because now you'd be cutting out Kim's shout out, so you
right,
can't.
I know, yeah, I know. Once you did that, I was like, well, this has got to stay in the episode now. Jeez, you kind of tied my arm behind my back on that one. Uh, but no, I mean, really, and I know that I've said this before, but it's like, with I hate when like it's put on me because it's like I'm not the one posting all the time. I'm not the one, it's I really think that it's you and that it's all the members of the group because y'all have to essentially sign some sort of social contract saying that we're going to be nice to each other and y'all abide by those rules and y'all make the community what it is. If it was just
Yeah.
me, it would just be me talking to an empty void and that's just weird.
Well, I think you still participate in the group, whenever you have time, like you record videos to give people feedback and stuff. And so that people can see that, and, see that that's always friendly and nice. And then I think that that is also a place that people really crave on the internet. The internet is so wild right now, and is such a rough place. And so I think that people really crave that much like softer, nicer community. Um, and so I think that helps, the continuation of that kind of culture, because everybody is willing to be a gatekeeper of that, because it's so important and so rare and so needed on the internet right now. So I think that because everybody really loves it, no one wants to see it spoiled.
Right. Huh. That's an interesting perspective that I had not thought of. I'm gonna have to think about that for a little bit because that is something that it's like as it continues to grow, I try to figure out like how can we keep it this way without getting too crazy because anything too big, I think can go south real fast. And I'd rather have a much smaller community of friendly photographers than,
Absolutely.
you know, a community of a million people and it's just like the Wild West, like you said. But another question that I got for you is that when it comes to the podcast, I know that you've been listening for a number of years, a long time. You have a lot of range when it comes to your photos. As I said, astro, portraits, street, not
They're
all
very
these things.
they're very all over the place. So
Yeah.
it's good that you say they make sense now, and it's really because it's like different phases of my life. I
Hmm.
mean, you know, from I did some event photography and then COVID happened. So there was no more event photography. So I did a lot of nature photography. And because I don't do this as a career and I just do this as a passion, that's the great thing is I can just go and meander any direction I want. And, and I have the bandwidth to do it. I don't have to, worry about my Instagram look or my niche or whatever. I can do whatever suits that phase, that point in life. So I'm glad to hear that my super random, super all over the place phases of photography make a little bit of sense now.
Oh, 100%, 100%. But I would love to know, just because you've shot so many different genres and you've tried so many different things, has there been a standout episode of the podcast for you?
Yeah. One thing that I can't even remember who it was on the episode. But one thing that really had a lasting impact on me was the idea of using your photography to serve.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Could have been
and
the
even
Blooms, Philip and Eileen
I
Bloom.
think that was it. I think
Okay.
that was it. That's what I was going to say, but then I didn't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
There's my lack of confidence. So yeah, they talked about using your photography to serve, and that stuck with me so much. And that's another thing that I think you have the opportunity to do, like whether or not you make this a career or a business. But even when I am taking pictures of a family and stuff, it's a lot of times all the time. I don't shoot people I don't know. It's a family I know, and I don't charge because I just do this for fun, and I'm not out there like nobody at me. I'm not out there advertising free sessions or anything like that. I know that gets a lot, working for free gets a lot of hate in the photography community sometimes, but
Screw it. Claim your
this is,
ground. I
yeah,
shoot for free. Do it.
these are people in my life, and I can, serve them by like, I have fun doing it. I enjoy doing it. And I've got this camera, I've got these skills. And so even on a very small scale, it doesn't have to be some like mission trip around the world. Where
Right.
it can be, you can bring awareness to really important causes through photography, but you can also just like serve your neighbor. Do they need I've had friends that need a headshot for their med school applications or whatever, and they need it and they need it cheap and they need it the very last minute, and I can be like, yeah, I can do that for you. So I think using your photography to serve in small ways and in bigger ways really stuck with me and made an impact on what I do. Even with connecting with local models, like that, a lot of that is like TFP, trade for time for prints, or trade for prints, or everybody has
Mm-hmm.
their own variation of
Right.
that acronym. But I can have fun and help a local model get some portfolio shots, and or somebody who maybe lacks a little bit, is just getting into the game, lacks a little bit of confidence, can make them feel really beautiful and feel like a rock star. And or I've also volunteered for nonprofits and done photos for for philanthropic causes and things like that. So using your photography to serve has permeated throughout a lot of what I do.
That I don't know how to end it any better than that. That is such a great takeaway. I think that you are going to change a lot of people's minds and their ideas about photography after hearing this little chat that we had here today. So I'm really excited
Yeah.
for this. Now, before I let you go, we know that you're in the group, but can you share anywhere else where we can find you online?
Yes. So I haven't updated my Instagram in a while, but the
Yeah, me
best
either.
place would probably be Instagram. It's Erika with a K, ERIKA D Greco, GRECO. So Instagram.com/ERIKA Erika D. Greco. I'll get some more photos up there sometime.
No promises though, right?
No promises. Yeah. I don't know. Social, like I said, the internet's the Wild West right now, so social media is kind of taking a little back burner time. But when I do post, it's there or in the
Perfect.
community.
Or in the community. Let me ask you one last question.
Join the community.
Yeah, just join the community. I didn't say it. Erika did.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you today that you want to make sure that those new to photography or those in the community know about it?
Gosh, I had these things planned out in my head and then I didn't write them down. So I feel like we've covered a lot of it, but I would say, like, one, you're never too old to pick it up. A lot of the people you see on Instagram are going to be younger than you, and you're going to be like, these young kids are so good. I'm never going to catch up. But one, you're never too old to pick it up. And two, you don't have to have, business aspirations to pick up photography. You can just do it for fun, and you'll have a lot of fun. You'll have a lot of fun doing it. So just take the pressure off yourself. One, to, be as good as someone else, or you have to make a business, or you have to have this piece of gear. Take the pressure off yourself. Have fun. Your journey is your journey, and it's valuable.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. If you enjoy the show, consider leaving a review in iTunes. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.